Well, I'm really, really excited to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me, Jamie. Yeah, as my bio says, I've been a physio for over 10 years, which seems nearly impossible, but it's true. I started out working in the core of Saskatoon, so worked with a vast demographic of individuals, working with everything from motor vehicle accidents to people managing chronic diseases. And so then from there, I branched into the medical yoga world and worked at Saskatoon Physio Yoga. And so that's where the foundation for today's talk is coming from. Working with yoga and physiotherapy, we found that there was a nice connection between the movement side of yoga, the breath work, and then adding a little bit of the science base from the physiotherapy perspective. That marriage was really, really lovely. So that's what we're going to be talking about a little bit today, and we'll add in a couple of other things as well. So I will share my screen here, hopefully. There we go. Wonderful. Perfect. So yes, this is just a talk on stretching to improve breathing. And sometimes we think that maybe breathing is separate from the other part of our body, so our lungs and how we intake breath, how that works sometimes may be thought of as being different from our musculoskeletal system, so our muscles and our bones, but it's really fascinating how intertwined the body is. So we're going to talk a little bit about how that goes. So before we get going, I would just like to know who's in the room. Who do we have here today? I've seen that there's people from all over Canada, which is fantastic. I wasn't anticipating that, so that's really great. But do we have anyone who's retired? You can maybe put up your hand in your chat, in your video, or if you want to unmute yourself and talk a little bit. Oh, we have some people waving. Yeah, fantastic. Good. Is there anyone still working? Yeah, fantastic. Does anyone want to share what they do? You don't have to, but you can if you want. Good. Yeah, retired. Great. Oh, a physical therapist. Oh, great. That's great. Kinesiology in Kelowna. Oh, fantastic. That's great. All right. Good. Is there anyone who is a grandparent? Or a parent? Yes. Excellent. Okay, fantastic. Good. Great. So I mean, it doesn't really matter, where you're coming from or what your background is. We're being brought here today for some particular reason, right? So it's kind of nice to get an idea of who's here. So if anyone wants to use the chat, maybe you'd like to, again, unmute yourself and just explain, but what are some of the main concerns that you have dealing with your lung condition? So what are some of the physical things that you experience?
How about chest tightness?
Yes, for sure. Chest tightness. Good. Oh, I see fear. Yeah, absolutely. Good. Fatigue. Yep. Exhaustion. Absolutely. Coughing, out of breath. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So those are definitely some things that that I've heard patients talk about in the past. So some of the main concerns that they have might be from the physical side of things, right? So things like shortness of breath, trouble walking, right? Their walking tolerance might be pretty low. They feel tired, fatigued, stiffness. So again, that chest tightness or just general stiffness can be something that they report. It could be through their rib cage, through their chest, their upper back, maybe in through the neck as well. Weakness as well. So it could be a physical weakness. It could just be even more of a moral weakness. Sometimes they feel, right, that they just don't have enough kind of to get through their day. They're just feeling generally weak. Right. So what are some of the emotions that go along with this? So we have some of those physical symptoms. There's the shortness of breath and all of that, but then what emotions? And I think someone mentioned that. Yeah, anxiety, absolutely. I think someone earlier had mentioned fear. Yeah, good. Well, thank you for sharing that. So some other things that we hear occasionally, right? We see some people expressing sadness, right? Anger, embarrassment as well. So if they are experiencing some of these physical symptoms, then they might feel embarrassed about them, right? Some depression can kind of come in at some points as well. I put snarky on there. I mean, you can choose your word for moody or irritable or whatever else you might decide to say. And then scared, right? Fear, right? Fear of the future, fear of what, might be coming up for you. Um, good or bad, right? The unknown can be very scary and uncertain. Okay. And then, so how does that impact you? So, what are some social changes that you experience because of all of that stuff? The physical symptoms and then the emotional stuff. How does that affect you socially? Good. Yeah. So, again, some depression. Yeah. Reducing, avoiding activity, isolation. Yeah. Good. Yeah. There's a huge stigma attached for sure. There definitely can be. Yeah. So, all of those things. Great. So on the social side of things, right, you might experience things like you decide to stop traveling, right? Many of you mentioned that you're retired now, and maybe you've needed to stop traveling or alter your travel plans. Maybe you don't go as far, maybe you change things, how things go, right? Insurance can sometimes be a bit of a bear, so that can really change things for you, right? Maybe you've changed or stopped walking the dog, right? You don't feel like babysitting the grandkids or don't feel like you can babysit the grandkids. Maybe you feel like you can't do that on your own. Maybe you don't want to host company or go out to visit others, right? Stop exercising, or if you're still playing some sort of sport, or just participating in social activities, right? So all of these things can interact with one another. The physical can bring on the emotional and vice versa. And then whether you're physically unable to do something or you have some of these emotional symptoms, then it can also impact your social life. And then if you're unable to travel or babysit your grandchildren, then that also feeds into some of the emotions as well. Right. So basically what we're looking at here is called the biopsychosocial model. Okay, and so this is basically looking at all three of those areas together, how they overlap, and then right in the center there is where we're looking at health. And so what we've talked about is kind of the negative side of things, right? Some negative influence from the physical side of the equation can impact your emotional state. It might impact your the social aspect, and all of those things can intertwine. But what's good to know and something to keep in mind is that even though they can have a negative impact on one another, they also can have a positive impact on one another. So if something goes really well, if you are emotionally feeling pretty good, if you're of a pretty positive state of mind, that can impact how you move, right? You might be able to move a little bit better, so your physical health may improve. And if you can physically move a little bit better, then maybe you are a little bit more social. If you're more social, you might be a little bit happier. So all of those things can play in here. And so the reason why I brought this up is because if we can make some small physical change with stretching, then maybe we can actually have an impact on other areas of our health as well. So hopefully we're going to be able to make a little bit of a small change or give you some tools that you're able to use to maybe make a positive impact, right? All right, so we're going to start with breathing, which is probably something that you are quite familiar with, whether you are a healthcare provider or if you are somebody who is, you know, seeking the services of Lung Saskatchewan. But we're just going to review this and I'll talk a little bit about how things work together here. So there's deep breathing, right, or diaphragmatic breathing, where as you inhale, your belly expands. Okay, so if you do put your hand on your stomach, maybe you put the other one on your chest because sometimes that feels nice just to have that little comfort there. But as you inhale, you should feel your bottom hand on your stomach move outward. Okay, so as you inhale, the air comes into your lungs, it fills it up and allows your belly to expand a little bit. Okay, so if you want to just give that a little bit of a try, breathing in through your nose or your mouth, inhaling all the way down to fill up that lower hand. And then as you exhale, you'll feel the hand move in towards you a little bit. Okay, and then we'll switch to what we call a lateral costal breath or a rib breath. And so if you put your hands right kind of underneath your bra line or where you imagine your bra line would be, and then if you take a breath in, you can feel your hands move out as you inhale. And then as you exhale, they can come back in towards each other. So the inhale allows those lungs to expand, moves the rib cage out and up. And then as you exhale, that rib cage comes back in towards each other. Okay, so that's kind of the fundamentals, the very basic physical side of breath. Okay, what we see happen, and it's something that as physiotherapists, it's something that we assess. We look for that rib excursion as you breathe, your belly excursion, just to see how much movement is actually happening as you breathe. Right? So obviously from the overall wellness perspective and life perspective, breathing is really important. But then from the movement perspective, whether that's stretching, if it's strengthening, if it's yoga or walking, whatever physical activity you choose to do, breath is really important. So we kind of use breath to guide our movement, to see how long we hold a stretch for, that kind of thing. So we pair the yogic side of breathing to the actual physiological side of breathing as well. And so here are just kind of some of the muscles that impact breath. Okay, so we have these intercostal muscles. So in between each of the ribs, there's little tiny little muscles that are there, and even they can get strained and stretched and tight and all of that kind of stuff. So they're very important for our breathing. So we'll talk about those in a little bit more detail, right? Then we move on to the diaphragm, which sits underneath the rib cage a little bit. It separates the chest cavity from the abdominal cavity. And so as you inhale, that diaphragm moves down, and as you exhale, it moves up. And so that muscle is also very important when it comes to breathing. And it too can get stiff. It can get tight as well, right? Moving into the neck, right? We have 3 different scalenes in the neck. And so they attach kind of high up, and then they also attach right to the top of our rib cage. So they're important for helping us lift the rib cage as we breathe. Okay, we have our pecs on the front of our chest, kind of in this area here, right? So if they get tight, it brings our shoulders forward. It can have an impact on our posture, but they also attach to the rib cage. So if they get tight, it may impact our ability to expand our rib cage. Then some more muscles in the neck, right? You might even notice for yourself if you ever end up in a position where your breathing is in distress, right? Or if you've seen someone who's in distress, you might see all of those muscles popping out in their neck. And so those muscles also can sometimes get tight when we're talking about our breathing. So if we want to improve our breath work, then making sure that we have nice mobile necks is very helpful as well. And then in the green here, we have our latissimus dorsi, which wraps around the back of us. And so it doesn't seem like it should be that restrictive, but if it gets really tight, it can impact and limit how much our rib cage can move as we breathe. And then the last one is our trapezius muscle. So there's those muscles, when you have a tight neck, usually we think about those upper traps as being the problem. But again, upper traps, mid traps, and lower traps can all impact how easily our rib cage is moving. Okay, so those are some of the muscles that are impacted as we breathe. And so not only the muscles can get tight, but also all of the joints, so all of the connections between the bones, whether that's the rib cage to the sternum or the rib cage to the spine, the shoulder blade on the rib cage. Sometimes even those joint restrictions, or when they get tight, that can also have an impact on our breathing, and vice versa. So if you've ever had a spell where you've been sick, if you've been coughing a lot, and then afterwards you have a hard time breathing, or maybe you end up with a tight back, you feel like, oh, it's a little bit tight back there, or a tight neck, right? All of those things are connected. So we're going to see if we can make a positive impact by learning how to move a little bit and then learning how to stretch so our breath can be positively impacted. So just in general, when it comes to stretching, hey, we have a few guidelines. So the first one is that a warm body moves best. So it's usually a great idea to implement a stretching routine after you've been up and around for a little bit. Doesn't mean you need to go sit in a hot tub or a sauna. You can, if is that something that you like to do. If you want to go for a short walk or something like that, just to get the blood flowing a little bit. It's really helpful to have the blood flow going so that there's good nutrients and oxygen that's being delivered to our muscles before we stretch. Another thing to keep in mind is to do a little bit of mobility before we work on flexibility. So again, just making sure that different areas of our body, different joints in our body are moving fairly well, maybe getting the nervous system to move a little bit before we ask it to hold into any stretches to improve our flexibility. So as we work through a couple of stretches today, we'll go over some mobility first, just so you have an idea what I'm talking about. A supported muscle is a happy muscle. So make sure you're using whatever you need so that you feel supported, whether that's a chair or pillows or blocks or different bolsters, whatever you have laying around. If you're doing stretches, it's sometimes really nice to have something to support your muscles so they can actually relax. If they feel like they're fighting to stay in a certain position, then it's really hard for them to actually relax and to stretch. So it's not a weakness at all if you have something to support you. So just know that supported muscle is a happy one. Right, so coming back to that breath, as it becomes really important with our stretching, we never want to hold our breath when we're stretching. We want to try to inhale and think about inflating whichever area we're trying to stretch. So as we inhale, it's like we're filling up that muscle with breath, with air, trying to get it to inflate. And then as we exhale, we want it to soften and then elongate at the same time. And so I'll give some cues as we go through, but generally speaking, that's what we're hoping to do. And you may have heard no pain, no gain, but when it comes to stretching, what we're looking for is no pain, no problem. So we don't want anything to be painful. We want this to be a comfortable experience. It doesn't need to be painful at all. Again, if you're feeling something that's sharp or tingly or zinging or anything, any of those kind of words that have that connotation related, then maybe just back out a little bit. Nothing should be painful. You might notice a little bit of a tug or a little bit of a pull or a little bit of a stretch, but nothing should be painful. Right? And then the last thing, this is I heard someone say once, and I was like, that could probably be applied to a lot of different things. But when it comes to stretching, if you can't breathe there, then you probably shouldn't be there. So if as we go through any of these stretches, you find like you haven't taken a breath in a little while, or it's harder to do, then just back out of whatever position you're in so that it becomes easier to breathe. So it probably goes without saying that the breath is more important than attaining the stretch. So just keep that in mind. As I was thinking about this, if you can't breathe there, you probably shouldn't be there. I was thinking things like deep sea diving. If you can't breathe there, maybe you shouldn't be there, that kind of thing. But anyway, we're going to keep those stretching guidelines in mind as we go through. Okay. So I know Jamie sent out an email saying that if you had a chair without wheels, then we're going to get into just a couple stretches here. Okay, so find a way to make yourself comfortable. I'm going to just stop sharing my screen so you can see me a little bit better, and I'm just going to move over slightly so I can sit here. Good. All right, great. So wherever you are choosing to sit, you can stand if you prefer. Some people prefer to stand, especially if you've been sitting for a little while. But if you'd like to find a comfortable place to sit, if you're like me and are on the shorter end of life, I usually will put a block or something under my feet just so that they're not just hanging off the end of my chair. But just find a way to kind of relax, feel supported. If you want to just rest back on your chair, you can do that. But just have a little seat here. Your hands can go wherever they're comfortable, maybe on the sides of the chair, whatever you prefer, right? and then just allow yourself some time just to sink into your chair. Okay, so that you don't feel like you are, trying to hold yourself up. Okay, good. There was a comment here.
I think someone had their hand up.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know where it went though.
Yeah, I'm not sure where it went.
Someone on their iPhone. Are you guys good? Must be.
Okay, let me know if not. All right, so make yourself comfortable here. If you feel comfortable and if you feel quite stable and you want to close your eyes, you can do that. Okay. And then we're going to start by just taking a few breaths. So you're not really trying to change anything right now, but just notice what your breath is doing. Just notice where it enters your body. Is it coming in through your nose? Is it coming in through your mouth? And then notice how fast the breath is. Remember, we're not really changing anything. We're just noticing. Then notice where the air travels to. So as it enters your body, where does it go? Is it going into your lungs? Are you feeling it go all the way into your belly? Good. And then we're going to just start to lengthen that breath. So trying to breathe in through the nose, feeling that breath move all the way down through the body, all the way down into your belly. And then just really trying to slow the exhale as best you can. So if you are breathing in for a count of 2, then try to exhale for the count of 4. Good. So just working to keep that breath slow and steady. We like to start here because as we start to move the body, sometimes our breath gets left behind. So it's nice to know what that slow, smooth breath feels like so we can remember it and come back to it if we need to. Good. And then while we're breathing nice and slow, let's just do a scan from the top of our head, very slowly down through the soles of our feet. And just notice how your body feels. So just checking in to see if there's any parts of your body that feel more restricted, might feel a little bit tighter. Maybe there's a difference between the right side and the left side. We're not passing any judgment, we're just noticing what's happening in this moment. Maybe you'll notice an area that's a little bit uncomfortable and you can adjust if you need to. Maybe you'll pick up on some areas of pain. But then you might also feel like there's some parts of your body that feel pretty good, and that's pretty great. And then just for a few breaths, give a think to what emotions you're experiencing right now. Okay, what are your thoughts and emotions doing? Are you thinking, well, this is a little bit crazy. Why did I sign up for this? Okay, maybe you're feeling pretty content, just happy to have a little slowdown in your day. Maybe you're worried about something you have going on later. Good. And then just take a notice to see how your energy levels are. Are you feeling high energy today? Are you feeling a little bit low? Are things a little bit on the positive side, glass half full, or are you on the glass half empty side of things? Good. And then just very gently start to wiggle your fingers and your toes. If your eyes are closed, you can open them. And then if you are able to, just wiggle yourself to the edge of your chair so that your feet are flat, right? So again, you might have your feet on something if you need to, like I do. All right, good. So again, just remembering that the breath is going to be the most important part. So if you feel like anything we're doing is causing you to hold your breath or speed up your breath, then just slow things down a little bit. You can always just reset at any time. So one of the rules we talked about when it came to stretching was mobility first. So we do want to get the body moving a little bit. Okay, we've been sitting for a little while. So we want the joints and some of the tissues to move before we ask them to stretch. So we're going to start by doing some neck rolls. We'll bring one ear down towards the shoulder and then roll the chin down to the chest and up the other side. Okay, so just you can make this movement as big or as small as you need to. Okay, so just very gently. And then check in with that breath. Did someone already start to hold their breath? Because that usually happens. You can think about breathing in on the way up. Exhale as you come down to your chest. Inhale up the other way. Good. We'll do one more each direction. Maybe you're noticing some snap, crackle, and pop going on in your neck. Good. Come back to the center. Good. And then we're going to move through the shoulder blades. So lift the shoulders up and then bring them forward and then up. Just making some circles with the shoulders. Again, you might notice that they move very smoothly, and for other people, maybe they are a little bit clunky. Good. Go one more time this way, and then we'll start to roll the opposite direction. Good. So again, we're just getting those shoulder blades to move a little bit. They sit on the rib cage. So if they're really locked down, then they can limit your ability to take a full breath in. Good. Right. And then to really jazz it up, we'll bring one shoulder forward, one backwards. Good. And then the other way. Good. We'll shake those out. Great. All right. So now we'll move into the shoulders a little bit. Okay, so we're going to take the arms out to the side. So thumbs are going to point outwards, and we're going to take a breath in, bring both arms out to the side, and then bring them to touch at the top and come back down into your heart here. Yeah, good. And then we'll do that again. So inhale on the way up, feel your rib cage lift, and then exhale, feel that rib cage come back down. Good. We'll do one more of those. Inhale and exhale. Very good. Great. Right? So now we're going to start moving the spine a little bit more. So we're going to cross our thumbs in front of us, okay, and just rest our hands on our heart, okay, or on our chest. Good. And so even if you kind of push in, you might feel some tight spots in your pec, okay, but we're just going to rest our hands there. And then we're going to start to roll through the chin, okay, arching through the back, spreading the rib cage apart. And then we'll inhale, think about getting really tall and pulling the shoulders back and down. So exhale to roll in, kind of curving through each one of those little bones in your back. And then inhale to open the chest. Good. We'll do one more like this. Exhale to roll down. Inhale to roll up. Good. Come back to the center. Good. And so if that felt really good for you, you can stay there. If you want to add some arm movements, you can bring your hands out to the side. We'll exhale, bring the backs of the palms together, still arching through the back. Then inhale to open. Good. Getting a stretch through the front of the chest. Good. Exhale. And folding in. Inhale to open. Good. One more time. Good. So again, this is just starting to mobilize some of those tissues, the nerves in the arms a little bit. Good. We can shake those out. Great. All right. Now we're going to do one more mobility exercise. So if you've noticed, we've kind of floated in and out of different positions. We haven't held anything for any length of time. And so now we're going to do a rotation. So we're going to bring thumbs pointed forward again. We're going to inhale, bring the arms up and forward. Good. Then we're going to bring the right hand forward and the left hand back to the chair. Okay, so we're just going to add a little bit of a twist. Good. Come back to the center. Good. And then inhale, both arms come forward. Good. Now the left hand comes forward, the right one comes back. Good. You can bring it to your front, to your knee, and just give a little twist. Good. Back to the center. We're going to do one more each way. So we'll inhale the arms up. Exhale, right arm forward, left arm back. Good. And then back to the center. Last one. Inhale and exhale. Go the opposite direction. Good. Great. Come back here to the center. How are we feeling? Thumbs up? Doing okay? Excellent. All right. So that was the mobility part of it. Okay, so just a little bit of movement. The blood gets flowing a little bit. We warm up a little bit, and then we'll come into our stretches. So when it comes to stretches, there's some of the research talks about holding a stretch for a total of a minute. We don't need to hold anything that long right now. We want to kind of work up to that and eventually get to that point. But holding for 20 seconds and doing that 3 times, that can be a nice way to get to that 1 minute mark without holding something for too long where it can be uncomfortable. Okay. But how I like to think of it, this is kind of from the yoga perspective, is instead of setting a timer for 20 seconds, or if you were like me, I would cheat that no problem without an actual timer. I would say I would count that really, really fast. But instead, I'd like to count breaths. Okay, so then we can focus on the breathing component, which is really important. And then the time passes a lot faster. Okay, you might not agree with me after we get going, but that we're going to try it anyway. Okay, so we're going to start at the neck. We're going to start with a couple of stretches here. So we're going to start by sitting up nice and tall, okay, and kind of tucking the chin back a little bit. So we don't want the chin to sit forward. We want to try and bring it back, shoulders back, and feeling nice and tall, okay? And then we'll rotate the chin about 45 degrees to the right, and then drop the chin down into the armpit. So you're going to check to see if you put deodorant on. Okay, and then we're still dropping, keeping the shoulder down here. Okay, so you should feel a little bit of a pull up through the side of the neck. And if you don't, you can bring your hand and just gently rest it on your head. So we don't want to pull it down. We just want to add a little bit of weight to that stretch there. Okay, and so we're breathing. Remember, we're breathing inhale to inflate. So thinking about the breath inflating this area. And then exhale, we think about getting a little bit longer, bringing that chin a little bit deeper into that armpit. Good. And then we'll release the hand, lift the chin, and come back to the center. And then just give your head a little bit of a bobble. Okay, see how it feels. Okay, be like a bobblehead on the dashboard. Okay, good. And then we're going to go the same direction again. Okay, so we're going to rotate 45 degrees. Okay, to the right and then down into the armpit. Okay, and so you might already start to notice there's a change from the first time we did this. Okay, so you might decide to go without the additional arm, or if you want to add the hand on the back of the head, just gently guiding that nose or that chin into your armpit here. Okay, breathing to inflate. And exhale to lengthen, soften. And again, inhale. And one more time. Good. We release the hand, lift the chin up, and back to the center. So again, give a little shake, a little bobble. Okay, you might feel a little bit lopsided now that we've stretched one side and not the other. Okay, now we're going to move on to the other side. Okay, so rotating the chin 45 degrees now to the left, or whichever way you didn't do before. Okay, and drop the chin down into the armpit. Okay, so I feel definitely a difference from the second one I did on that side to the first one on this side. Good. So if you're feeling a stretch in through that area, into your shoulder blade, to the back of your ear, that kind of area there. And if you want to add your hand to, again, just gently help that stretch, you can. Breathing to inflate. Exhale to lengthen. Another breath here. Good. Release the hand, lift the chin up, rotate back to the center. Give yourself a little shake. Roll the shoulders if you need. Good, and then we'll go one more time. So we'll head over again to that left-hand side. So we'll rotate 45 degrees, chin down, add the arm if you'd like. And then we're focused on that breath, breathing into that area where you feel the stretch. Exhale. Good, and one more breath. Good, release the hand, lift the chin, and come back to the center. Okay, good. Just check my time here. Good stuff. Okay, great. So now we're going to come into our pec a little bit here. Okay, so for that, if you can stand up, right, you can use your chair. You can also use a wall, something stable for furniture. Okay, but we're going to just do a little bit of movement through the wrist here first. Okay, just move that arm. So the arm that you're going to stretch is the one that's closest to the wall or to the chair. Right, the fingers are going to be pointed backwards away from you. Okay, and you'll just rest your hand on the chair and rotate your body away. So that stretch can come through the chest. It might come down through the arm a little bit. It's common that you might feel a little bit of tingling in that hand too, so you might need to adjust your height. The pec muscle is pretty big and it fans in many different angles. So some people might feel a good stretch here. Others might feel it if it's out from the body, and others might feel it if it's up high. So just play with that height and see where you feel like a nice gentle stretch through the front of the chest. And then again, you're going to inhale to fill this front of your chest with breath. And as you exhale, soften, or you might start to rotate away from that chair or wall. So inhale to inflate, and then exhale to rotate. Good. We'll take one more breath here. Good, and then we'll come back to the center. Good, bring the arm down. Again, you might need to wiggle the hands, fingers. Good, give it a little shake. Good. Good. Yes, you can lift it higher in the wall. Absolutely. Yes, for sure. So that muscle can come in many different angles. You bet. Good. And so we'll go again. So you might try a different angle with the arm this time, or you might just stay where you were. Okay, but same thing, fingers pointed backwards. Okay, we're going to start to rotate that chest away. Take a breath in. Fill that area with breath. And as you exhale, you might rotate or just think about that area softening or lengthening. Good. So I like to start with this bigger chest muscle first. The shorter one is pretty intense. So for today, for our purposes, we're going to start with the big one. Okay. Good. One more breath. Good. And release that arm. Again, give the hand a shake. Great. And we'll go to the other side. Okay, so if you have to turn away from the camera, that's okay. Right, so same thing, you might just stretch and bend the arm a little bit, kind of move the wrist just a little bit. Okay, shake out those, give those nerves a little bit of movement before we ask them to be stretched. Okay, good. And then fingers pointed backwards, arm on the wall or the chair. Good, and then you'll rotate away from that arm. Feel that pull, and again, you might play with the height a little bit. And then inhale to inflate. Exhale to stretch or turn. Good. One more breath here. Great. And we'll come back, turning our body towards the wall. Give the arm a shake. Good. And we'll do one more on this side. Okay, so place that arm wherever it feels comfortable. Good. Give a little bit of a rotation just till you feel that gentle pull. Breathe into that muscle. And then as you exhale, think about softening or rotating. Good. Take one more full breath there. Good. And we'll come back to the center and let that arm drop down. Great. Okay, so while we're standing, we'll do one more here. Okay, so we're going to do into our lat a little bit. Okay, so if you have your chair, you can use the back of the chair. The wall works fine too, right? So as long as your shoulders feel okay, I'll show it first and then you can give it a try. But if you rest your hands on the back of the chair, kind of take a few steps back and bring your chest forward. Okay, get a stretch kind of through the sides of the body here, maybe even through the chest again. Okay, but you send your hips backwards, chest comes down, and then you're breathing through all of your rib cage. So breathing through the sides of your rib cage, breathing outward. Okay, you might think of your back expanding up to the ceiling as well. So as we breathe here, we're thinking about each one of those ribs lifting up and out. Maybe getting into those intercostal muscles a little bit, those ones in between the ribs. Good, and then we'll walk towards the wall, bring the chest up. Good, you can roll the shoulders out again if you need to. Good. Good. Yes, I definitely will share something with you. Okay, good, and then one more time with this one. So hands on the chair, and we'll sink our chest down. Good. So breathing into wherever you're feeling restriction. It might be in the armpits, it could be on the back. Just thinking about that rib cage lifting up and out as you inhale. And exhale, just thinking about softening. And just one more breath. Good, and we'll walk our way up. Excellent. So you can make your way back to your chair. Good. And then if you want, you can close your eyes again. And then just do a little bit of a scan again from the top of your head down to your toes. See how your body feels. Is there any changes from when you checked on it earlier? How's your energy level? Did that give you a little bit of a boost or did it deplete you? What does that feel like? And any emotions, thoughts that you might be having? Okay, you might think, yeah, I was right. This is kooky. Maybe you're feeling pretty good about it. Good, and then just take 2 more deep breaths, filling up through your belly and your rib cage. Right. Excellent. Well, thank you guys for participating. And for those of you who had your cameras off, maybe you just didn't, and that's fine too. But anyway, I hope that kind of give you a little bit of an insight as to maybe what might help you stretch some of those structures that might be either helping or limiting your breath. And you might get the bonus added benefit of having a change in your energy level, or maybe just what you feel in general. So yeah. Is there any questions for me? I see a couple in the chat here. So
Shonda, let's give her a fake video clap or a emoji clap, reaction clap. Thank you. We appreciate it. I feel so much better. I know even I have asthma, I go walking and I'm like, oh, why am I short of breath? Like, and then I realize, oh, I didn't stretch at all. And then I stretch and I feel better all the time. So I really appreciate what you shared with us today.
Of course, absolutely. And I saw some in the comments here. I can absolutely put this together, and Jamie, I'll send it to you. And if you want to pass it on to anyone who wants it, then they can have access to it.
I will send that on then via email, however that happens. I'm going to stop recording now just so we can have more personalized conversation. And
For sure.